Hello, it's Debbie Gilbert from the Business Awards show, and I'm also the founder of the Best Business Women Awards. And today I am joined by Kate Cherry, who's one of the regional directors for the Athena network. She covers the South Bedfordshire area, and she won our Gold Award last year for a Best Networking Group. But she's also won a Silver Award for Best Customer Service and was also a finalist back in 2019, and along with a couple of other awards as well, which we'll talk about later. So today we're going to be talking about Kate, her award journey, and I think we're going to cover some networking tips because Kate is the font of all knowledge after 8 years of running her own networking groups, and she also has her own business with Arbonne, which she's had for 12 years. So welcome, Kate.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, Debbie.
Oh, it's lovely to sort of spend some time chatting to you because we've known each other a long, 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 long time. And I
Oh,
couldn't have
yes.
been more delighted to see you win that award last year and see the shocked look on your face.
It was total shock. As I've said to a lot of people, thank goodness I wasn't mic'd up because it would have been a bit blue. It was the first thing that came out
Oh.
of my mouth when my name was announced was a swear word.
You did look shocked. You did look very shocked. But I was so delighted when I saw that you'd been chosen because I know how hard you work. So let's go back to the very beginning, back to when you left your corporate life. So what made you set up a business and what made you buy an Athena franchise?
Yeah, it's quite a journey, isn't it? And I don't think if you had spoken to me 15 years ago, say, I would always joke that let's jack this in. And I remember what I used to say was, I'll go and have a florist in Devon. And I don't know why Devon, and I don't know why a florist, because also actually they're going to get up at 5 in the morning to go and buy their flowers, and that wouldn't have suited me. Um, but it was just the thing when you're on the hamster wheel and you're going into Canary Wharf every day. I live in Hertfordshire. That you just say to yourself, oh, let's jack it in and do something else. And my version of that was in 2013, after a few years of this monologue, I decided to do something about it. I was head of European data operations in an American company called Standard and Poor's. So one of the three main rating agencies, actually, I think there are four now, but main rating agencies. And so it could have been a job pretty much for life if I wanted it to be, given the markets and how our business grew. And I was in charge of data processes and systems and data collection and data translation for analysts. And push came to shove when I find women in particular, we have this balance. We have home and everything else and all the other jobs, and then we have the job. And it's about keeping I'm looking at the scales, it's keeping those scales in alignment. And it was all good. And my kids, from when they were little, were with childminders and nurseries, and that worked for them because, frankly, I'm not a qualified educator. So it was better. I loved them to bits, but it was better that mum was at work and they were being looked after by professionals, to be fair. And then that maximised our time together aside from that. So, and luckily, I was in the job where I could afford that commute. I could afford to do that because so many women can't, and they have child number two or three, and it's not worth it anymore. But for me, I could do that. But the scale started to shift in that our environment was ever so much more regulated after things like Enron in the noughties and then the financial crisis as well. Um, and then, so, less satisfied at work. And then at home, once the kids were 6 and 8, 7 and 9, let's say, they're now 18 and 20. Um, I thought, well, actually, hang on, it's me missing out. They're fine. They've entered primary school and everything with, with a real head start from the younger life they had. And now it's me missing out because in 5 minutes they're going to be teenagers and smelly and not want to know. And just a sidebar for anyone who has a 6 or an 8-year-old, that doesn't happen. It's a progression. They don't all smell, and they will still love you and want hugs. I mean, actually, the bigger they are, the better the hugs sometimes. Um, so I was looking around for part-time local jobs, and Debbie, this is one of my most passionate things: is why women, to use a Standard and Poor's terminology, why women have to downgrade themselves and everything they've achieved in order to have balance and in order to um, achieve in their lives, but then also still be a mum and be at home and be present and be that person that their kids need them to be. My kids are ever so grateful I made that change. But what it was going to look like was a teaching assistant job, which is quite a bit standard. Mums who commute end up going and doing teaching assistant jobs and things like that. And the part-time local job, I was in a bit of a bubble. The part-time local job scene was very poorly paid from my perspective, because I was on practically six figures. And it just, for between April and July 2013, it was sort of like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And I'd come to terms with that. Great. In order to be at home, part-time job, won't earn much, but I'll be doing something. And then my friend introduced me to my Arbonne business. So for those who don't know Arbonne, it's in the network marketing industry, skincare, nutrition, well-being. And what that allowed me to do was build the business for a year while I was still in my job. Because one of the most scary things is jumping out of your job into nothing, into zero, because any business starts at zero or minus, depending on the business you've set up. I was lucky enough that both my businesses are businesses in a box, so to speak. So the Arbonne one didn't require much investment at all, if any. And I was able to grow the business to that part-time income level and then leave my full-time job a year later. Enter the world of networking, and your networking groups, at the time called Mums Unlimited, were one of the first I attended. In fact, and word of mouth started straight away, because the first event I went to in Harpenden, where I live, a group that I then ran after that, I was then asked to run it. Someone there who never ever attended again, it's really weird, someone there became my client, I became hers, I'm still her client now, 11 years on. She recommended Mums Unlimited. She came to that first one with me and never went networking again. Not because, just because, she doesn't actually need to be fair. She'd just gone because she thought she should. And I'm ever so grateful. And I call it that little, if I did a family tree of all those connections and what led to. So I started my networking journey, learned how to network. And I know we'll talk about that, because people rock up thinking they're selling to the people in the room and they're not. I've done all of that. I've made all those mistakes. And 2 years later, I was introduced to the person selling their franchise of the Athena network, which was the Bedfordshire area. I now have two, so Bedfordshire and Mid-Hertfordshire. So 2 years later, I invested in a second one, and that was a family decision, because it's a lot of, it's an investment. You're buying a franchise, but again, it's like you said, it's an established networking organization which operates primarily in the UK, but also internationally. Since COVID, we have been operating online because that model worked for us. So we provide monthly structured networking for women in business of all kinds of professions, all kinds of industries. It doesn't really matter. I've had everything from portaloos to marketing and employment law and everything in between, because we're all people and we all have connections and we all know people. So it's about getting to know each other to the point that you would be happy to share your networking, your connections with someone in order to help them in their business. And it's, didn't really know what I was doing apart from, I used to run coffee morning networkings initially, but our founder Jacqueline Rogers and set it up in such a way that it was like any franchise. If you were to go to a McDonald's, you would expect your Big Mac to be the same as if you'd gone to Stratford and had Big Mac. Actually, I don't know if there's a McDonald's in Stratford, but up on Avon. Definitely in the one in London. But you would expect the Big Mac to be the same. And it's the same principle with us. So it's a known, what's the word, proven model that
It's a formula, isn't
it's
it?
just
Yeah.
different. Yeah, there you go. So different people that you will meet in the groups, obviously. But and it's a pleasure to do that. I feel like I've spoken for ages now.
No. You haven't, because it's good to hear that background story, because, you know, the Business Awards show is about people who win awards, but it's also, we want to know and understand what took you into your business in the first place. And a lot of the women I talk to have had similar challenges with childcare, or like you, wanting to just be around more for their children, and commuting and doing 12-hour days just isn't conducive to doing that, and wanting some flexibility in their life. And I'm guessing your Arbonne business gave you flexibility for yourself as well as to spend time with the children. So what I'm interested to understand is that you could have just gone and set up a networking group by yourself. So What attracted you to buying a franchise? Was it the formula and was it sort of the name above the door being a trusted brand, or was it something else?
Oh, I think it's option three, something else. And I'm just being completely honest. And I've said this about my Arbonne business as well. There being lots of network marketing companies out there. It's literally, it's who asked me. So I knew about network marketing in my Arbonne business, but I didn't know other companies. And it's my friend who approached me and shared the solution to the problem I had.
Mm.
And it ticked a bunch of other boxes as well. So if she hadn't asked me, I don't know, some other company might have found me. Fast forward Athena to answer your question. Um, it was actually an Arbonne colleague, not connected to me. She picked up the phone, rang me, and said, "Oh, you run a coffee morning networking. I know someone selling a networking franchise." And it was literally, I think her phone call was the 17th of January, and the 6th or so of February, I'd signed the contract. So we were, as a family, about to make an investment in something. And I thought, well, hang on, I've been running a networking group for free for a year or two or whatever. Um, this looks great. It's another business in a box, and I can learn how to do this because I already run a networking group. And as you always said to me, I remember you said to me once, Debbie, it's a great platform for my other business, which it is. Um, so tick, 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 basically. It was the right thing that came along at the right time. And I really liked the person who was selling her franchise. So yeah, it's relationships. And I think I said this to my networking group I ran today, actually, is that people don't do business with people who don't ask them to do business with them. It's like you can sit there and get upset all you like, but did you actually ask the person to work with you?
It's very true,
So that
isn't
was
it?
it for me. And I must say, in both instances, I've been incredibly lucky. And I have a third business in property, but which has come through networking. But um, I've been incredibly lucky. It could have gone terribly wrong, but in both of them, when I opened up that box of the business in the box, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing in both. So um, very lucky that it was, this is where I landed for sure.
I don't think it is luck. I think you have worked extremely hard because I've watched from the sidelines, and I think you are very process driven and you are very astute and you're very committed. And that's why you won the best networking group because you are very committed to your networking and to the people that come to your groups. So let's talk a little bit deeper about networking because we joked and laughed earlier in the conversation about the mistakes people make. So we could talk a bit about some of the mistakes and we can talk a bit about, I think, some of the positive things that people should be doing. So let's talk about the mistakes. What are the common things that you see as someone who organizes networking?
And I'm so process driven and sort of analytical, Debbie, that I need to have written these down beforehand because, and I was listening to a couple of your previous podcasts and I remember someone else saying something similar. It's like, oh, there's so many, like ask us our top tips. It's like, ah, so many. What not to do. Treat networking as a business card handing out exercise. I
Mm.
literally heard someone one day say, I've been networking, I've handed out some business cards, that's good. Um, my thought was, well, it's good for your printer
Mm.
because you'll need more cards soon. But I personally would only hand out a business card if there's a follow-up action with the person, and I'm writing on that card. And I really like cards that aren't too laminated because otherwise I can't write on them. What did I need to do? It was, and usually it's something like we've either had a chat and I need to tell them more about my work, or arrange a one-to-one, or actually I'm sending them to someone else, which I pride myself with as well, which is
Yeah.
it's looking beyond that. So that's one, is treating networking as a sales exercise. Pitch it, hogging the conversation is a big one. Big one. Being conscious of your surroundings and who's talking and who's struggling and who's you need to kind of like don't cut in and start talking about your thing or bringing it back to your business again. We see that a lot.
Mm.
And these are all examples I'm giving you of more the sort of open networking format where there's not a structure, because there it is the wild west, and you need to It can be very nerve-wracking for
I know.
people, and it's hard enough to answer the question, so tell me what you do, because it's like, oh no, I haven't got a script. That was me. Whatever words I choose to say first, that's what you remember. Um, whereas, a family lawyer can say I'm a family lawyer, for example, but some businesses, it's not as easy as that to explain what they do. So it's being conscious that there are people around you that might be more nervous than you, and they might have been in the middle of talking. So don't cut in, and don't constantly bring it back to your business and what you do, because it reflects badly on you anyway. Actually, what I find is this has the reverse effect, because people are doing this to promote themselves and get out there and make people remember them, but they're just going to remember them for the wrong reasons.
I know. It's funny, isn't it? I was at a networking event the other day, and this guy came over and gave me his business card. But I have to say, this would get the award for the worst business card because A, it was black, and B, it was like a credit card. So it was plastic and you can't write on it.
Ooh.
So he was really proud of it. He thought it was lovely because it was looks like a credit card and it's black and it's got gold writing on it. And I sat there thinking, I can't write on it. I can't make notes on it. Might be able to use it if I need an ice scraper for my car in the
Yeah,
winter.
or if you need to unlock a door like in a
I
police
was like,
program.
oh, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't say anything to him about it, but I felt like I perhaps in a different circumstance might have mentioned
And
it.
that's your example exactly there of what you remembered is, I mean, I know you've probably not for confidentiality reasons said who he is or what he does, obviously, but the first thing that you mentioned was it was a plastic business card. It's like, and also the environment. You've got to be conscious of what's going on at
Yeah,
the moment, and who I know some people still do plastic business cards.
I do. I mean,
Oh,
I've still got some business cards, but I've been doing a lot of new networking down here in Somerset because obviously I don't know anyone here. And I've chosen not to take my business cards with me, and I will take a card from somebody else and
yes.
sort of connect up with them and make little notes on the card. And I've just decided not to take them because I think to myself, if you start farming out your business cards to all and sundry, the first event I went to down here, I just got spammed by everybody. They just sending me all these spammy emails.
Ah,
Oh, I don't like that.
thank you. That's reminded me in continuation of an answer to your question. There's two more I've thought of. One is, and you say this, Debbie, all the time. And I've learned from the master, having very early on attended your events, it's don't add people to your mailing lists. It's not, you can't do it. And then I've taken it on myself in my groups to do every now and then to do a little bit of a GDPR training bit in net, and I relate it to networking. So I give some background because so many businesses. It was 2018. So
Mm,
many businesses have launched since then. And is there anyone sitting there apart from maybe their accountant telling them you need to watch out for this bit? No. So there are
mm,
so many companies out there still adding people to mailing lists, even
mm.
and those who should know better. Um, yeah, so you made me think of that.
Yeah, it's
And the
annoying. It's annoying.
the other thing that I thought of was the follow-up, so not following up properly. So
Yes.
what I call a networking tumbleweed. As someone who arranges networking groups, we have inquiries. It's not all me going out getting people. We have inquiries, and networking tumbleweed could be, in my instance, someone who asks a bunch of questions, uses a lot of my time, and then tumbleweed doesn't stops answering everything. But I think people inherently can't say no. They don't know how to say no, so they just air you, as the kids say. Um, but then also when you're introducing to fellow networkers, and how I would always do that is I'd open an email, put them both in it, and explain why I'm introducing them. And then it's A, I know they've connected, and B, it's down to them then. But if one of them doesn't answer, particularly the one I'm trying to help, it's sort of, you must, even if you're really busy, please reply. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And you're not helping yourself in that first interaction by not getting back to people.
Yeah. Would that make you think in the future, I'm not going to introduce that person to somebody in future if they don't respond to you?
100%. Yeah.
It's true, isn't it? So let's focus on the best networking practices then. So if you're going to a networking event on a regular basis, whether it's membership or it's not membership, it doesn't really matter. If you're showing up on a regular basis, what should you be doing?
Exactly what you just said, show up on a regular basis. Because if it is a membership network, then you're not tied to, that's not the word, but your commitment is to X amount of meetings a year, and it might be a group where you can get yourself replaced and always have someone sit in if you're not there. Don't just no show. Might not get invited to renew. Um, but if it's an informal network with no set booking or membership, it's so easy to just turn up, see what happens, and never go back. And
Mm,
I would always go back. And I say in our membership, we have a benefit called Pass Plus, where members can visit any other group nationally for free. You've done it. You've been to my groups, and you're
mm.
actually in the St Paul's group. And it's a great benefit. Dilutes your membership fee by however many groups you go to. Um, I would always say go back, don't just pass plus once, come back in a couple of months. And it's the same for coffee morning networking. We have that in the one I used to run. I still attend it, and maybe it's because it's free, but you tend to have maybe a third of the room that regularly go and two-thirds who are new, and it's 50-50 if you'll see them again, because
Mm.
they expect to get business straight away, but you've got to keep going. So definitely dedicate time to it.
Yeah, I think people think that they can just show up at one event and then they're going to get like oodles of business from it. And obviously, again, coming back to basics, I've been building my network here. And I have to show up on a regular basis because if I only went to a group once and never went back and it was expecting to get business from it, it's not going to happen. So yeah, I don't know where people get that mentality from. It's almost like I've watched people come armed with leaflets or coupons or something, and they sort of hand them all out, and then will tell you afterwards that the networking event didn't work.
I
Because
know. And I think I'll come back to something a colleague of mine in my other business said. It's networking, not having a sleep. It's net. You've got to work it. So, um, and that doesn't involve. I mean, dish out some collaterals if you've spoken about them and you can refer to them. It's kind of why I like the online stuff really, because we can't hand anything out. We're putting links in the chat, and it totally relies on you building relationships. Um, but yeah, that's definitely good practice. Is yeah to to
talk about online networking versus IRL in real life.
oh yes.
So obviously 5 years ago, the pandemic happened, and that saw Athena go online very quickly, actually. I have to say, it was very swift and it was very smooth. And after the pandemic finished, the decision was made to remain online with some in-person special events, if you like, so Christmas and summer, etc. Me personally, this has been a lifesaver for me because I'm in the middle of nowhere in Somerset now with very little networking here. And I wouldn't be able to be part of the network anymore because there isn't an Athena group here. So for me, it's been amazing. But what's your thoughts on this, taking it predominantly online? Because you were obviously somebody who ran lunch events on a regular
Mhm.
basis every month. So what do you see have been the big advantages to you and your members for being online now?
Me personally, as a business owner, and this is one of the reasons we all came to that decision. There's a sort of I know there's a theory that a decision was made maybe at head office, and it was a group decision, all us regional directors. And in fact, I don't know if other business communities or company communities had the same thing, but I find us even closer now
Mm,
since that time, because we would meet 4 times a year for a regional director day before that, and very little communication in between, apart from maybe a monthly Zoom. But now we're way more connected and aligned than we were before, and that decision was made. Whether some people like it or not, we did lose. I lost a lot of members straight away who couldn't bear staying online. But what I'm finding now is it's balancing out, and I totally get that. We were all stuck at home. We were all on Zoom forever, and needing to get out
mm,
and stop seeing in 2D. But for me, I did not fancy going to renegotiate contracts with hospitality. I was paying. I was, making a profit on my meetings but I would not have made a profit anymore, definitely, if we'd gone back.
Mm.
And one of our commitments to members is that we had put our prices up slightly a couple of years before COVID, I think. And that was not going, we were not going to shift our prices. And we only did it again recently, which was 5 years later. So, because we haven't, we appreciate businesses need to be able to afford networking. And what we did instead was enable that Pass Plus. So, something we gave people during COVID was, do you know what? It's Zoom, just go anywhere as long as your profession's not taken. It's all good, as long as you've paid one membership in one group.
Mm.
And we have a system around that. I like a system. Um, we thought, well, we did a member survey, and what came back massively was how much they enjoyed that. I had a member in my group. She's in marketing. She did business with someone in Bristol she'd never met before, but she wouldn't have been able to do that through Athena before. And my favorite answer to your question is the being able to, like your situation actually, being able to service people who could not go to networking normally. So whether it's childcare, mobility, not being able to drive, not having the car. I have a member recently who's rejoined our network because she, for medical reasons, couldn't drive for 6 months. And she thought, oh my God, no, I need to still get out there. I'm joining Athena again. And it's really worked for her. So yeah, whether it's childcare reasons, distance, mobility, someone, can't get around so easily. I love that we're able to service those individuals.
I think it's a time thing for me as well, because, looking back on the old days, I mean, I used to come to your group when it was in Dunstable. So it would take me 45 minutes. I'd have to allow to drive there. So I've got that 45 minutes. Inevitably, at the end of the meeting, we were always hanging around chatting. And then by the time I got back to the office, I mean, though the meeting would finish at 2, I wouldn't probably get back till 3:30. And I'd probably left my house about 11 in the morning.
Mm.
Whereas, I can log on at 5 to 12 and I'm finished at 2 o'clock and it's done. And actually, for me, that gives me more time at the end of the meeting to look through the list and follow up and start thinking, right, okay, what are my actions from that event? Whereas I'd often get back from the meeting clutching my attendance list and then I'd put it down and then I'd forget what I've got to do. And, so I think it's more efficient, if I'm honest. I think it's more
And I
efficient.
think you've touched on something in terms of stopping the flow. Everyone knows that when they're working, for example, it's if you're onto something, whether you're trying to do Pomodoro and stop every half hour or whatever, sometimes you're in your flow and you need to keep going. If you had to stand up, leave a room, get in your car, drive off, get angry in traffic, for me, that sheet's not getting touched till the next day. Whereas now I can, there is a place for face-to-face networking as well. I love it. And I collaborate with someone who runs a network very similar to me. And we're doing our next big event in September because we did it last year with
Oh, is
the
this one
Chamber
that
of
you're?
Commerce and
Yeah.
WIBN. Yeah, so it's championing women through collaboration. And we called it that because we're quote unquote competing networks. Our members don't like to say to each of us that we're their members of the other as well, and it's quite
Oh.
funny. And Bedfordshire Chamber of Commerce, and it went so well, we're going to run it again. And the biggest message is collaboration. And actually, we're not completely identical. Our agendas aren't exactly identical,
No.
and they're mostly in person, and we're mostly online. So and Chamber's Chamber, right? So it's a three-way collaboration that works really well.
And when are you doing that? Let's put the date down.
That is the 25th of September. The venue is
Okay.
TBD. We are having conversations with a couple around the LUAL area, so
Yeah.
sort of Luton Harpenden area, because we did it up in Bedfordshire last year.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, I'll have to try and get up for that. So, we always try and finish the podcast. I mean, you've shared loads of tips about networking, but let's think about your business journey. And I just wanted to ask you a couple of business tips really that you could pass on to anyone that's not networking related, but just related to your business and what's kind of helped you along that journey.
Yeah, I should have thought about this ahead of time because then I will hang up and I'll go, oh no, that was the one. One that comes to mind is stay in your lane. There are lots of other people who do something like you, but you're the only you. And one of my members said when she delivered a talk at one of my events actually, and it was she said, you're the only one, there might be, say, three accountants in the room, but you're the only one who does that the way you do it.
Mm.
Um, and so you will find your people. And don't social media can be such a rabbit hole in terms of for businesses, and I'm often actually on my personal feeds unfollowing business stuff because you can be sitting there on a Friday, a Sunday having a check-in, and it's all business related. Because if you're like me and you are friends with a lot of networkers and businesses, um, you just need to switch off sometimes, and because you'll second guess everything you're doing. Oh my god, should I be doing reels like that person, or videos and pointing like that person? And just do what you're comfortable do what you're comfortable with. And but then also get advice, and especially if you work alone, but also if you lead a team, get a good coach. There'll be points in your business where you're like, I need something for me. I need someone to work with me. And I worked with a business coach who was fantastic. Her name's Abigail Dixon, and she worked across my three areas that I do. In fact, she's the person who helped me admit, and admit is the right word, that the Airbnb and rental stuff I do is a third business.
Mm.
Because I was all about, oh, I've got to do that on the weekend. I can't do it in the week. She's like, why? It's another business. So I now, since I've worked with her, say, I'm Kate Cherry and I run three businesses.
Yeah, because you have a
And
house in France, don't you?
yeah, we do. Yeah.
Love
And we
it.
Airbnb it. And that's all thanks to, networking connections and light bulbs you pick up along the way. So yeah, so those are two of the tips. And the other one's personal development. It's linked to coaching, but just continue growing, and just be a kind, caring person, really.
So let's finish off by talking about awards, because you won the Gold Award last year for Best Networking Group, which we mentioned at the beginning. And back in 2019, you were a finalist. We didn't do Silver Awards in 2019. We brought them in 2020. And I think it takes a lot of courage to enter again when you don't win the category. What do you think about that?
100%. In my instance, and I'm so to this day gobsmacked, my award is sitting behind me. And for those
Mm.
watching, I'm pointing to it. Um, Absolutely gobsmacked to have won because there were six of us as finalists. But yes, rolling back to the first year I applied, which was, I think it might have been the last year you had the networking category before you brought it back. And
Yeah.
it was, I was up against, I don't like the word against, but Hella of Sister Snog and Hella won. And actually, fast forward, Hella and I are probably going to be doing something together, which is awesome because we've been meaning to connect ever since, and always bump into each other at your events. So something might be happening there. But it was a sort of, I'd applied to yours, best networking group, and then in 2020 service, what is it, customer service, I think,
Yeah,
because
customer service during the
there
pandemic
wasn't the
year. Mm.
networking category. Yeah, absolutely. So I was finalist there too, and in 2017 or 18 I'd been finalist with the SME awards for networking and customer service. And so it was sort of like, oh, put a lot of energy in, that'll do now. And for a few years I was like, nah, I'm done with awards. And then it was a chance conversation with you about something unrelated, and we both had a bee in our bonnet about something. And the conversation, and as many of my conversations with people end up, is with me saying, "Oh yeah, let me do X, Y, Z." And in this instance, it was you letting me know that the category's back, and that, yeah, do you want to do it? And so I sucked it up and went, yeah, sure, let's do that. So the most important thing is not just leaving it to a week before. You have to treat it, project plan it. You have to treat it as a project plan. So thing number one, copy the questions into Word, something like that. Give yourself little jobs every day. Register on the website, copy the questions out into Word. Throughout the year, have a list where you're writing down cool things that happen, things you
Mm.
achieve, that especially women in business, because that's what your awards is, we tend to brush off as just part of the job, and we don't remember them, and we give ourselves a hard time for all the bad stuff and forget all the good stuff. So yeah.
And I think what you've also done so well is, aside from running, incredible groups, you have done so much for charity as well. And you are a big supporter of some of the charities that you work with, aren't you?
Yeah. I've ended up being on an advisory board for one of them, and I think that might have come before I then sponsored their membership with Athena. I can't remember, but Azalea. So they were your charity for the awards last year. Yeah. So I've worked with them for a few years now. Since COVID, actually, we did collections for them on the doorsteps, and then that sort of one thing led to another kind of thing. But yeah, since I started my first business, I've sort of worked with charities. There's another one which I met at your expo actually, Debbie. It's Red Rubber Ball.
Oh, yeah.
So we got an Arbonne charitable foundation grant for them, for example. I think, if I'm not getting that wrong, and it wasn't another charity, but anyway. So since the beginning of it's like, well, who else can I help? And I mean, it sounds really philanthropic, but it's just there's a foundation and some money to go round. Oh, well, I know some charities. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's put the situations in front of me, and I will go and do it, kind of thing. So, and it's the same with the charities in my community. It's like, well, hang on, I know people, and you need to do this event, and actually, I've got some ideas. It's probably the worst thing to do in business is say you have ideas, because everyone wants them. It's how I ended up on the PTA.
Oh my goodness. So what plans have you got for this year? So you're talking about this event in September. Is there anything else coming up or anything you want to share before we finish off today?
Well, like many businesses, I have done a fair bit of chasing my tail and realised I did that a lot last year, going from one event to the other. And so in the autumn, I made a promise to myself that to make the year calmer, which it's not, I don't know why, but to make the year calmer, I'm going to plan my events ahead, where necessary, book venues, all of that. So my members now have a sheet of additional events for the whole year, and looking at it, there's about 10.
Hmm.
And it's everything from training to the summer do to this, that, and the other. So yes, September we have championing women through collaboration. In July I have my summer networking event, which is at Nebworth Golf Club. So that is on the Tuesday, 8th of July. And that's open to non-members too. So these larger in-person events that I only do once or twice a year, they are open to non-members as well. But I tend to, if they haven't been to Athena before, I tend to gift them then a visit to a formal Athena meeting.
Yeah, which is nice. Well, I wish you continued success. You now have the networking crown firmly on your head. Well done. I was really chuffed to see that because I don't have anything to do with the judging. And
No,
anyone that knows that's Maggie Sarfo's on our judging panel, she did not judge your entry either. It was judged by people who didn't know you. And it was lovely to see because, it's always nice when I see people that I've known win awards because I know how good they are. And sometimes I sit there going, oh, it's such a shame that person didn't win, even though I know them. Yeah, because sometimes that happens and I can't get involved with the judging. It has to be done fairly. So well done you. That was great, great result.
thank
And
you.
yeah, I wish you continued success with your groups and your Arbonne business and your lovely Airbnb in France. And just quickly, whereabouts in France is it?
It's about an hour north of Montpellier, which is where I went to uni. So that's a whole other story.
Lovely, amazing. And you off out there soon?
When am I out there? Beginning of May. Yes, I'm going down with my mother-in-law. We sadly lost my father-in-law a couple of years ago, and because of COVID, no, I mean, I'm not one of those people to go, oh, because of COVID, this, that, and the other. But with what happened, because he was, what you call it, he needed to shield. He never actually ended up seeing the house. So now, and then he passed away, November 2022. So we've been a few times with my mother-in-law since, but yeah, he's there in spirit.
Oh, well, have a happy holiday next time you go. Take care.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Take care then. Thank you very much.